2 months, 2 assassination attempts, and dozens of outstanding questions. Well, it seems that all we've gotten at this point from the government is stonewalling. And the longer they do that, and I said this after July 13th, the more Americans wonder, what is really going on? So the government's lack of transparency is creating a major credibility crisis for the Secret Service and the FBI. Are you reassured by this?
I want the American people to know that the men and women of the FBI are working tirelessly to get to the bottom of what happened. Our work is very much ongoing, and we're just a few days into the investigation, so we're limited in what we can say. We're working around the clock to investigate this.
Well, it's going to take a little more than that to assuage fears in this case. And we're still standing waiting for answers about the first time Trump was almost killed. And just like things didn't seem to add up about Thomas Crooks, who he was personally, his motivations, we're still looking for that, let alone the incompetence on the ground in Butler. Well, in this situation, the same questions are lingering. The same could be said of the way they're trying to spin this Ryan Ruth. Now, this guy had a long criminal past dating back decades. He spent much of his life in North Carolina before moving to Hawaii in 2017, where he built tiny homes for homeless people. Now, somehow he eventually made his way to Ukraine, where all on his own, I guess he was willing to fight and die for all of the people of Ukraine, and was trying to recruit people to fight in Ukraine, had a website. So let me get this straight. A guy with a long criminal past, living in Hawaii, not making much money, somehow gets to Ukraine with $60, $68 in his bank account, where he then threatened foreign leaders to another person, assassination, chit-chat. And he ran a website recruiting foreign fighters for the war, but just did that all on his own. Then last week, he makes his way all the way from Hawaii to camp out in the bushes of the Trump golf course in West Palm Beach in the middle of the night with a rifle and a scope and a couple of bags. As we told you last night, Ruth was reported to the feds, but appears that nothing came of it. So all of this raises more questions than it gives us any answers. But we are learning one new detail. Fox News has confirmed that Donald Trump now does have the same protection package he did when he was president. It's about time. And he already had it, believe it or not, on Sunday. But a Secret Service source tells us that Trump's security was increased after Butler and that helped thwart this second assassination attempt. Joining me now, Florida Congressman Mike Waltz, member of the Trump Assassination Task Force. Can't believe we have to have a task force on this, but we do. Yeah. He was briefed by the Secret Service late today. Congressman Waltz, thank you for joining us. What can you share with us about this briefing?
Well, just to go back to Butler and the gross incompetence, I mean, it's just jaw-dropping, Laura. Not all of the local law enforcement was at the coordination meetings with the Secret Service. They did not give the law enforcement that was there sufficient guidance on how to secure the AGR building. They just basically, the Secret Service just basically told them, you guys got it, right? Completely insufficient. And while they had a common radio net, they were texting each other. There wasn't a, hey, shooter on the roof, get the president off the stage, all hands on deck. And the command post, when that was delivered, wasn't in the same place as the president. So huge failings and violations of protocol. My pushback has been, okay, thank you for being forthcoming, Secret Service. Where's the accountability? Who's been fired? And you know what? Retiring and sailing off into the night with full government benefits is not accountability. So on the one hand, the Secret Service is coming to us with their failings and addressing those going forward. The FBI, on the other hand, radio silence. We still know nothing about Crooks's encrypted accounts. We know nothing about how he built the IEDs. We know nothing about how he was radicalized. And the fact that he was so quiet on the internet, I think, is an indicator in and of itself. The same thing's playing out now down in Florida. The Secret Service says, look, we should have had better drone coverage of the entire perimeter. Thank God for the one agent who spotted the rifle and they're coming back to us with what they're going to fix again, and they have increased resources.
Well,
once again, though, the FBI radio silence will let you know when we get done with our investigation. That's unacceptable. We need maximum transparency right now for the American people.
Now, Congressman, President Trump was really cool, calm, and collected today when he was asked about this. And he's like, look, they have beefed up my protection. But the question stands, does it not, sir, that the former president went to that golf course, and there was a man somehow all on his own, got from Hawaii in the middle of the night, gets into those bushes, is perched there. There's no infrared imaging done of that perimeter. I'm still not understanding what happened with the drone. It was flown, but it wasn't flown in the right area. They didn't pick him up, or they didn't do it soon enough. I mean, what does it take for the Secret Service to actually answer simple questions, be transparent, and do so expeditiously? Not with this big runaround of, I'll get back to you in 90 days or 6 months or whatever the heck it is.
So here's the problem. The service is being forthcoming about what they failed on the actual details, but then they're referring us to the FBI in terms of any information about the shooters or their background or where they got the weapons or how they got there, and that's completely unacceptable. We need to have both the FBI and the Secret Service in every single briefing, so they can't do this.
You have sitting senators who are, well, before a lot of this stuff started going down, were pretty, they're conservative, but they're pretty moderate guys, who are saying they don't believe the FBI. They're not trusting this narrative that these are just lone wolves who somehow have like no real detailed social media that would indicate a motive.
Right.
In this case, this guy was like recruiting people from Afghanistan to fight in Ukraine, and then he was homeless, and he was in the New York Times, and he's interviewed by media people, and then the FBI kind of knew about him but didn't follow it up. I mean, this just it stinks to high heaven to most people, and I can understand why.
You layer on top of that these threats from Iran, ongoing plots from Iran, 2 that have been intercepted. And what have you heard from Biden and Harris when we have an enemy of the United States trying to kill a former president and leading political candidate? You've heard nothing, much less anything in terms of consequences to Iran or any type of retribution. And so that's the piece. I'm also on the Intelligence Committee. That's the piece I'm zeroing in on, is what foreign aspect, if any, is coming into play here, because these are just too many coincidences.
Well, Congressman, I'd laugh if it weren't so sad and scary for our country, not just this election and President Trump's life, but for the country. The fact that we're still mulling over motives. Well, it's not clear what Thomas Crooks's motives were. Isn't it ipso facto you're trying to shoot the president of the United States? You know, your motives aren't good. You were trying to do him harm. I guess you had the situation.
But they're really quick to say he acted alone. Like right out the gate, he acted alone, but yet we know nothing about him. And again, when we're done taking our time with the investigation, we'll let you know. That's not acceptable. You tell the American people what you know, when you know it. The service has been better, but the FBI has completely gone dark. And that's not acceptable given these attacks, given the foreign threats, and given that we're 47 days out from an election. It's just totally unacceptable. If we've got to subpoena Wray, I say we do it. But they need to come clean with what is behind all of this.
Yeah, well, we needed, in my view, I mean, you guys are doing the best you can, but we needed like a Watergate-style, inquiry as to how this went down. And now it's happened twice. Guy didn't get a shot off, but he got into position. And for that U.S. Secret Service acting director, Congressman, to say, oh, well, he didn't have him in his the line of sight, like that's some, high-fiving each other that we were effective. Yeah. How long would it have taken him to get into the line of sight, were it not for that one agent who saw the barrel of that gun?
That's right. And by the way, the agent was within 10 feet of him. He was incredibly close. And had he been taken out and the president came, he would have been just as close. It's literally a chip shot. My 2-year-old could make that shot.
Yeah, well, again, it's more luck than anything else. And we can't rely on luck here. We have someone's life at stake and the future of this country at stake in this election. Congressman, thank you for demanding answers.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.